Well, hello there, I'm Papa John and welcome to my channel. And we are continuing with the 25 slashing Santas of Christmas. I got my little babyface, leatherface elf on the shelf back here. And today we are looking at another great franchise, although this one does not star a baby Leatherface. The franchise we're looking at today is the Silent Night, Deadly Night franchise. And if you want to hear more about Killer Santas outside of this franchise, I've already made a few videos already. I plan on making at least one or two more. So go ahead and check those out by hitting the subscribe button, the like button, the notification bell. Leave your thoughts on Silent Night, Deadly Night down below. And today we're going to be looking at all 7 movies. So let's get started. And we start our journey in 1984 with the original OG Silent Night, Deadly Night. Now this was a film that sparked a lot of controversy, even though it wasn't even the first Killer Santa movie. But people acted like it was, and they didn't want to see a Killer Santa movie. They thought it would traumatize children, Karens of the 80s. And Silent Night, Deadly Night, the original, starts off with Billy as a kid on Christmas Eve, as him and his parents are visiting their elderly grandfather, who gives Billy a warning, a very cryptic warning, but his parents don't see it. And on the way home from the retirement home, they encounter a killer Santa who goes on to kill Billy's parents right in front of him. Oh, and he also had a little baby Ricky in the car with him as well, which does play a significant role later on in this franchise. And then Billy and Ricky get put into this nun orphanage with very strict rules on punishment and what kids can and can't do. It's ran by a very, very strict mother superior. And eventually, when he becomes 18, he gets a job at a toy store. And while working at the toy store, it eventually becomes Christmas. And the guy who's meant to play Santa can't show up. So they put Billy in the Santa costume. And this kid is terrified of Santa because Santa killed his parents. And he has this mental breakdown and goes on a killing spree. Now, this is a cult classic that I do really enjoy and love, and I don't think it gets enough critical love with regards to the character study that they're doing with childhood trauma and how that can lead to devastating effects as an adult. I still prefer how they do it in Christmas Evil, to be fair, but they still do a really good job here. You have some great kills. The acting's not the best, but I don't think it in any way gets in the way of the movie. I think Billy, yes, he plays it very straight, and his lines can be a little over the top or a little corny, like naughty. And he plays it very straight, but at the same time, he's mentally crazy, and that craziness comes across in the performance to the point where, yeah, it's corny. But a crazy person who is that mentally ill in real life would probably say something corny. And so I think this is actually a really well-made movie that is really well-paced in everything. And since I am trying something new with this video compared to my previous videos, I'm trying a franchise review here. I'm going to incorporate some scores here, and my critical score would probably have to be an 8 out of 10 on this. And then my personal recommendation would be a big thumbs up. This is going to be the highest critical score I give in this video. That being said, it is not going to be my number 1 on my personal ranking. It is going to go at number 2. Because I'm not ranking these based off of my critical analysis score. I'm not that type of person. I don't really care. You can take these fucking scores with a grain of salt. I don't put too much thought into them. I just thought it'd be a fun thing to do. And so yeah, my ranking is not based off of any critical score or anything. It's basically just my personal enjoyment level and recommendation levels. And with the success of Silent Night, Deadly Night, inevitably there was going to be a sequel. And so in 1987, we got Silent Night, Deadly Night Part 2. Now, this movie is infamous for being one of the greatest so bad it's good movies to watch. And so part 2 is trying to be a, I guess, character study of Ricky, Billy's baby brother, who grew up with the killer Santa who killed his parents and a killer Santa that turned out to be his brother. And this looks at Ricky recalling the events of the first movie, and it does it in a very lazy way, where it literally just shows you the first movie, essentially, like a highlight reel of the first movie for like 45 minutes. And then you get the second half, which is new stuff, and that is highly quotable. You have this over-the-top performance that is not like Billy in the first movie, because this one is not good in any way, but it is fun to watch and hilarious to watch. When you get stuff like the garbage day line and just all of that, it's hilarious to watch. And I do weirdly enjoy some of the kills. I enjoy the Jeep kill. I enjoy the umbrella kill. This is a fun movie to watch. Is it a good movie? No. That's why my critical score for part 2 would have to be a 1.5 out of 10. However, for my personal recommendation, I am not going to give it a thumbs down. I'm going to go right down the middle because it depends on the person. I'm just going to say hang loose, hang tight, and watch it on your own merits. You very well may enjoy this film just for the fun of it. Not because it's good, though. Much like I said about part 1, has the highest critical score of any movie on this list. Part 2 is the opposite. It has the lowest critical score on this list that I'm going to give. But also, like part 1, or unlike part 1, that does not mean I'm going to put it in last place. No. I'm going to put it 2 spots ahead of last place. Because even though it is the worst movie, if you look at it at a technical level, it is not the worst movie to just sit down and have fun watching. And now that brings us to 1989 with Silent Night, Deadly Night 3, Better Watch Out. This is a movie that has Ricky again, but he's recast as Bill Moseley. Now, you have Ricky, a character from part 2, known for his cheesy one-liners. Garbage Day! And you have Bill Moseley, Chop Top from the Texas Chainsaw Massacre Part 2, one of my all-time favorite horror movies. You have Chop Top himself, a character known for his one-liners. Bill Moseley, an actor, horror actor, known for his one-liners and his deliveries. So you combine a character known for his one-liners, an actor known for his one-liners, and what are you going to do to this character in this movie? You're going to make him mute. I was so excited when I knew Bill Moseley was in this because I love Chop Top. He's one of my favorite horror characters of all time. And I could not believe that he barely says a single line. Actually, he does say at the very, very end, right before the credits, he does say Happy New Year. Anyway, they are, for some reason, keeping this murderous Santa Ricky from part 2 alive, even though it's a different person, but it's the same character. They're keeping him alive for some brain research reasons or whatever, and he's got this skull thing on around his brain that looks horrible and looks very B-movie-y. And he apparently gets this psychic connection with this girl, and then over Christmas he wakes up from this coma and basically goes on a killing spree to find the girl that he had that psychic connection with. And the kills are boring. That's the main thing with this movie, is it's just boring. You know, this is one where critically, it is bad critically. You know, the acting's not good. The effects aren't that great. But, you know, the story is fine. You know, there's not really anything too bad about the story or really the writing in general. You know, the cinematography's not that bad. You know, so I think on a critical level, it's not as bad as part 2. You know, my critical score would probably have to be like a 4 out of 10. That being said, this is easily the most boring snooze fest in this franchise. And that's why I do have to give this one a thumbs down. And it easily goes in last place on the franchise ranking. And then just a year later, we enter the 1990s. And in 1990, we get Silent Night, Deadly Night 4, initiation. And this is where the franchise forgets what the actual franchise is. There's no returning characters, not really any returning actors to my knowledge. There might be one or two here. This is just a Silent Night, Deadly Night movie by name alone. It's not even a slasher movie. It's also the only movie on this list that's not a slasher that I'm featuring in this 25 slashing Santas of Christmas, and it doesn't even feature really a Santa Claus. I mean, I guess it kind of does, but it doesn't feature a killer Santa Claus. But I had to include it because of the franchise it's in. So this kind of feels like if Midsommar and Black Christmas kind of had a little baby in the 1990s / late 80s, and it's bonkers, it's off the walls. You know, you kind of have to throw in a little bit of like a Nightmare on Elm Street 4. I think that's the one with the cockroach kill, you know, and maybe some of the Fly. You get some of that body horror in here. And I think the body horror is done, I guess, fairly well. But yeah, it's just a reporter who gets caught up in this investigation around Christmas time and gets caught up in a group with a bunch of witches and witchcraft and some kind of like pagan holiday and all of that jazz. It's a fun movie. In the right mood, you can have a lot of fun. It's not as over the top with its girl power stuff as 2019's Black Christmas. You know, like it has some of that flair in it, but it's not as over the top as that, and you still get good male characters. You got a nice balance here. So in the right mood, you can have a lot of fun with this and the cheesy body horror that goes along with it. Overall, though, critically, I do think because the story does kind of go all over the place, it's not very consistent. And so critically, I would give this about a 3 out of 10. In terms of personal recommendations, I'm leaning towards a thumbs down. But because I remember the first time I watched this, I actually did enjoy it a lot more than I did the most recent second watch. And I think because of that, I'm not going to quite give it a thumbs down. I'm going to give it a very low hang loose and hang tight and just check it out on your own merits. But no, it's not going to be too great. But you might have fun regardless. In terms of the ranking, this one would go in second to last for me. And then just another year later, in 1991, we get Silent Night, Deadly Night 5. The Toy Maker. Once again, this has nothing to do with Billy or Ricky or like a overt killer Santa Claus. I will argue there is a killer Santa Claus because of what we'll get into when I describe the movie. That being said, this is not in the same vein of those first two movies especially. This one follows a boy who's basically being targeted by a killer who keeps dropping off toys. And these toys are designed to kill the person that opens the package. And so, like, the opening scene is really good. I really enjoyed it, where this father opens a gift that random person gave his son, and the toy kills the dad. And you get this great scene towards, I think, around the third act, the beginning of the third act, that I absolutely adore. It's one of my favorite kills out of any Christmas horror film, where you just have a bunch of toys. It's like a twisted, messed up version of Toy Story. They just come to life in this kid's room and wreak havoc on the babysitters. And this kid, you know, he's having some troubles dealing with, you know, the death of his father and all of that jazz. And he keeps going. His mom takes him to the local toy store, you know, maybe to help him find something that can pep up his spirit. Because the mom doesn't know that the toys are doing the killing. They just think she just thinks they're freak accidents. Well, the first red flag here is the toy store is called Pedo's Toy Store. Just think about that real quick. It's the Pedo's Toy Store. And this third act, I don't really want to spoil it because I didn't know where it was going when I first watched it, and I'm glad I didn't. And so I know there's a lot of people out there that have not seen this, and this has turned into a cult classic. Because to me, it kind of has that Halloween 3 syndrome where its title being in a franchise hurts it. If this was just called like the Christmas Toy Maker or something, I think it'd be a bigger hit and more people would talk about it. But because it's called Silent Night, Deadly Night 5, people ignore it, thinking it's just another Killer Santa movie or something, similar to like how Halloween 3 is not a Michael Myers movie at all. And I think that hurts it, but I think it's getting a little more popular in the last few years, I think. And I certainly am one of those people who defends this movie and loves this movie. I think it is a great, fun Christmas slasher that just goes off the walls in the third act to places you did not see coming. And I will say there's a Pinocchio element here. Critically, obviously, I'm not going to give it too high of a score, but I am still going to give it a mostly positive score of a 6 out of 10. However, I will highly give this a big thumbs up as a personal recommendation. I adore this movie. I love it. And to me, this is definitely the third best movie in the franchise, both on a personal level and probably on a critical level as well. And now we jump 21 years into 2012, a whole person legally able to drink years later, and we have the first remake of the OG Silent Night, Deadly Night, with 2012's Silent Night, directed by Stephen C. Miller. This is a odd one for me. I do really enjoy the kills here. I love the kills, and I love the environment of this movie. And for the most part, I enjoy the cast. I don't think the cast is perfect by any means, but you have Harvey Bullock from Gotham, you have Alex DeLarge from A Clockwork Orange, aka Malcolm McDowell, and with those two actors, I'm pretty much going to enjoy the performances regardless, and I do enjoy the characters here. For the most part, there's a preacher character that I think is a little over the top, I don't fully enjoy, but the other thing I enjoy is the kills, which I think I already mentioned, but if I didn't mention it, I really enjoy the kills. These are some of the best kills in the franchise in this movie, but I also really dig the look of the Killer Santa in this movie. He's got kind of like a plastic mask as well, not just the beard and hat. Where this movie loses me is essentially just the writing. It doesn't flow very well. You don't know where it's going, and not in a good way. And it just kind of feels like the killer has nothing to do with the actual movie. He just happens to be there, and the backstory you get on why he's killing, it's very minimal. I don't think they do a good job explaining all of that. But like I said, it is an enjoyable movie. This is one where I think critically I would call it a bad movie, but personally I do dig it quite a bit just for the sheer kills and cast. So critically I'd probably have to give it like a 4.5. However, I still will give it a thumbs up as it is one of the better movies in this franchise, sort of. And in terms of where it places on this list, it would have to go at number 4. And lastly, we have the newest movie in this franchise that just came out this weekend, and that is the 2025 remake Silent Night, Deadly Night, starring Rowan Campbell from Halloween Ends in a very similar role. And this is directed by Mike P. Nelson, who also directed the Wrong Turn remake, which was also pretty good in my opinion. I enjoyed it. And this still has the main skeleton of the original. Unlike the 2012 one, which had nothing to do with the original, but yet it's considered a remake. This one still has that main skeleton, It has the character of Billy, the main character of Billy, and his backstory of him visiting his grandpa on Christmas Eve, and then his parents get killed on the drive home by a killer Santa. And he grows up to become a killer Santa. Now, there's a lot more twists and turns that you don't know about at first while watching that opening. That being said, it's still that same skeleton backstory. Now, in the original version, Billy would kill people as Santa Claus that he perceived as naughty. However, in that version, being naughty was just being a teenager and having sex. In this version, being naughty is actually being a bad human fucking being. It's a lot more justified here. He's not justified. He's still a serial killer. But he's killing child abductors. He's killing murderers. He's killing Nazis. He's not killing innocent people. And there's a supernatural edge that is a little mixed. When I first saw it in the movie, I was a little hesitant on it, but they sold me on it by the end, at least from a personal enjoyment level. There's some other elements in there that I don't think entirely hit when I view it from a technical, critical standpoint. That being said, I did really enjoy pretty much everything in this movie. There's a great love story, twisted, messed up love story that I absolutely adored. I loved the Ruby Modine character. There's a lot here, and there's a lot of twists and turns along the way. They find ways to pay homage to the original without ripping it off, and it's just a fun Christmas time. And one thing I do kind of really enjoy is you have this almost Quentin Tarantino-like flair to the story structure and the editing. You know, I heard someone say it has a Quentin Tarantino-like flair before I saw it, but I was expecting it more from a dialogue standpoint. But it's actually more from a story structure and editing standpoint. And I really did enjoy that. So, because I do like that style. Now, in terms of my critical score, I will actually put this a little bit below the original, but just barely at like a 7.75. And that's mainly just because when they're dealing with the supernatural stuff, while I did enjoy it from a story level and it never ruined the movie for me personally, from a personal enjoyment level, I think the effects they used and just their execution of it does come off as a little too B-movie cheesiness. That being said, from a personal enjoyment level, this is obviously like a thumbs up, maybe even 2 thumbs up. I mean, we had Terrifier 3 last year. We have this one this year. I couldn't be happier with the amount of Killer Santa movies, the great Killer Santa movies we've been getting the last couple years. I adore it. I couldn't be happier. And there's probably some recency bias in the fact that I'm still going to put this ahead of the original as the best in the franchise or my personal favorite in the franchise, regardless of the critical score I give it. Because critical scores be damned. And so there you go. Those are my reviews of each individual films. That's my ranking. The remake, the original, Part 5, the first remake, Part 2, Part 4, and Part 3. That's how I rank them. But now let's look at the franchise as a whole. For the critical average that I would give this franchise of 7 films, it would come out to a 4.9 out of 10, which is not a great score. That being said, I am not giving this franchise a thumbs down because I do think there's a lot of good quality in the first movie, and especially the remake. And I do think there's some cult classic fun to be had with Part 5, with the 2012 version. And I think Part 2 is so bad it's good. And because of that, I think this franchise, if it sounds interesting to you, I would recommend you check it out. But I can't give it a full thumbs up. I just have to give it a hang loose, hang tight, my man, and just go off of your own personal tastes, basically. I'm not going to recommend this to everybody. And there you have it. That is my franchise review of Silent Night, Deadly Night. Tell me your thoughts on these movies down below and your thoughts on the franchise as a whole in the comment section down below. Hit that thumbs up icon if you enjoyed this video and this style of video. Hit that subscribe button and notification bell as well to stay up to date on my 25 slashing Santas as we're nearing the end. I only have a couple videos left. And always, happy holidays. Merry motherfucking Christmas, y'all.
And a happy new year.